Told me not to smoke drugs, but I wouldn't listen. Never thought I'd get caught and wind up in prison. Chalk it up to youth, but young age I ain't dissing. I guess I just had to get it out of my system. Out of my system. Out of my system. Oh Lord, I never ain't missing. Glad I went and got it all out of my system.
And welcome to another episode of Uncarcerated. I'm Lee Scott, I'm your host. Each and every week we take a deeper dive into the criminal justice system and, with a heavy focus on people's journey as they come home from various types of institutions, mental health, jail, prison. We'll expand the show out to cover different topics eventually, but for right now we're really focused on the criminal justice system. Tonight we got a special guest, got an interesting perspective from a small town in Indiana. First, I want to talk about a recent issue that has come up. It really has started to become prime focus since the George Floyd incident, when you had a lot of people looking for police reform and criminal justice reform. It's been on the books for a while, and people have been working on it, but now it's got a little bit more of a mainstream support, and it's starting to make some headway. It's the state of bail reform. While racial justice and criminal justice reform activists have long argued that cash bail criminalizes poverty, mainstream awareness has increased in recent months. And what we mean by criminalizing poverty is, if you get a DUI, a nonviolent crime, you have a chance to go in front of the judge the very next day and go home. You can be ROR'd, released on your own recognizance. You go home to your family, you've got support, you may have a job, you may not. But you have people that can come pick you up. You have a family and kids to go home to, and you can try to reset your life and get things together before you pay the price for the crime you've committed or have not committed. A lot of times, you haven't committed it. I mean, you are innocent until proven guilty, but your constitutional and civil rights go out the window when you don't have any money. If you don't have any money and you go to jail and you go in front of the judge and they decide to set a bail, you may be in there for weeks or months or even years. I've seen people do years in county jail that were innocent or later found to be innocent. Years of their life because they couldn't afford $100, $500, $1,000 to go home. I've seen people sit in jail on a $2,000 bond, which is, in Florida, 10%. If you pay 10%, you can go home. Some people don't have $200 lying around. I actually saw one time a guy have a $100 bail. More than likely he was homeless, didn't have a lot of friends, didn't have anything to eat. He was really struggling. I saw a guy who did not even know this man come up with $100 and get him out of there. You see random acts of kindness all the time when you're in jail and prison. What people are trying to do now is get rid of the cash bail system. People are trying to move towards a system that is case-by-case based. So you go in front of the judge can look at you, he can look at your risk assessment and go, can this guy be in society? Did he murder somebody? Did he abuse someone sexually or physically? Is he violent? If he's not, we could probably return him to his family. But no, we can't do that because, get this, you hear about lobbyists all the time. Oil, big pharma. Did you know that there's a bail bondsman lobbyist? Yeah, and they're pretty powerful. The cash bail system has almost been overturned in several states, and the bail lobby throws money at legislators and gets the bill killed every time. It's criminal what we do to human beings in America. A supposedly free country with a constitution that says innocent until proven guilty. Trial by your peers. Alaska passed a bill in 2018. Who cares about Alaska? What is there, like 6 people and a moose there? Come on, really? All right, I'm going to tell you anyway. Alaska passed a bill in 2018 that largely eliminated cash bail for defendants as part of an effort to reduce the state's ballooning prison population. In California, where the median bail is $50,000, $50,000 is the average bail. They passed a bill in 2018 that was designed to eliminate cash bail, but it hasn't been implemented, partially because human rights activists argue that it gives elected county judges too much power and relies too heavily on risk assessment tools. I get in the long run, you're trying to do the right thing. You're a human rights activist. You don't want to give powerful judges or somebody who messes up a risk assessment tool where they take into account something that you may or may not have done from 20 years ago, and it scores against you, and now you're sitting in jail on a suspended license. And these human rights activists are fighting that. But come on, we can't do all or nothing. Sometimes incremental effort is worth it. People are going to sit in jail for years until this gets passed, all because you want this to be perfect. Well, it's not going to be perfect. It's frustrating to see people that are, trying to do the right thing ruin something. Georgia saw bail reform in 2018 when Atlanta's mayor, Keisha Lance Bottoms, signed a bill eliminating cash bail for defendants accused of violating city ordinances. Activists say that the law doesn't go far enough to protect mentally ill defendants. You may or may not know this, but I've seen people with Down syndrome in jail, county jail, with nobody to come get them. They do something at a group home and they get sent to county jail. And they get there and they are lost. No guards, no nurses, no mental health, nobody to protect them. Inmates, thank God for the kindness of inmates who will not attack or hurt or pick on people with mental health problems. They protect them. They bang on the door, they talk to the guards, they try to get people out of there. They give people food. If they see somebody who can't help themselves, whether they have mental health problems or, they have Down syndrome or something like that, the inmates protect them. These are guys that are sitting in jail accused of a crime, have been shunned by society, allegedly innocent till proven guilty, but not in the eyes of the court or society or the community. And they're protecting mental health patients more than state officials are. That's what's going on right now. New Jersey reduced the number of people held in pretrial detention by 44% after a 2017 law was passed that largely eliminated cash bail. So New Jersey's pretty much done away with cash bail. New York legislators passed a sweeping bill in 2019 that eliminated bail for most nonviolent offenses. Vermont set a cap on bail for some misdemeanors at $200. Again, that doesn't go far enough, but it's something. And Washington, D.C. eliminated cash bail early on in 1992. We really need to work on this problem, folks. If you see a local activist or an area in your community where you can help eliminate cash bail, please get active. Please help people go home and take care of their families. This is not just about somebody who may or may not have made a mistake or committed a crime, or in your eyes, maybe is a scumbag. This is about their children and their families. They can go home and work and provide for as long as they can. And I don't want to hear that they shouldn't have done something. They should have thought about that beforehand. You've driven drunk before, okay? So let's not judge. Let's just try to work to get people home. All right, let's get to my guest tonight. It's a guy named Duck, right here on Uncarcerated.
They told me not to smoke drugs, but I wouldn't listen. Never thought I'd get caught and wind up in prison. Chalk it up to youth, but young age I ain't dissing. I guess I just had to get it out of my system. Out of my system. Out of my system. Oh Lord, I never ain't missing. Glad I went and got it all out of my system.
So, Duck, you're growing up in Indiana. You've got this picturesque sort of hallmark childhood, and then all of a sudden that's sort of interrupted by this divorce with your family. Give us this, what age were you when the family started to break apart, and did you find yourself slipping into a different role as compared to your sort of sports superstar brother?
Yeah, so like I said, it was about 9 when I started to see the unraveling of my hallmark pictured family, and but it wasn't until about 11 that I started allowing it to take a toll on me. I I felt like I was more pressured now. Like I said, my dad, he raised me and my brother and sister all have different dads, so same mother. So I felt like I was now being pushed to live more like my brother. So I'd hang out with his dad more because he was the athlete. My dad was the outdoorsy, and I started to feel like that's when the mask started to be put on. I started to act and do as things that necessarily didn't fit my criteria, or I was doing things to make others think, oh, well, now he's on the right path because he's on his brother's path. Or so I kind of strayed away from what I was supposed to be doing and what I had dreamed and hoped for to kind of make that Hallmark picture at least seem like it was still there.
So I think a lot of our listeners can probably relate to that we all put these masks on. We show our boss one thing, our wife another thing, our children another thing, and it's very rarely is it cohesive and integral. So did you feel like you were putting on a mask for one group of friends, a mask for another group for your family, and how did that influence you as you began to start to get in trouble?
Yeah, so in fourth grade, I became intrigued in the destination imagination. For the viewers that are listening that don't know that, that is like improv. So quickly I learned that, putting on a mask could create different feelings. In DI, I would do it to win events and make the crowd laugh and stuff like that. So I started to do it with my friends because this is not, depending on the group of friends I was hanging out, I didn't know what they wanted. Did they want me to be the tough kid that just never cried or just never let nothing bother them? And I quickly seen that the groups I was hanging out with, it was always wrong crowd, wrong time, small town, wrong crowd, and I would put on this front like, oh, this don't bother me. This is who I am. This is who I am. And I would put that mask on, and unfortunately that mask became permanent because, like I said, it was crowds that were into drugs or into breaking and entering or robbing, and I put that mask on once. I fulfilled the role, and unfortunately legal troubles followed. And
so did you ever feel like you knew who you were?
no, I truly, I felt like I knew who I was, but it wasn't until just recently. For the viewers, this man that I'm talking to, he's very intelligent. It wasn't until I had talked to you there in the prison and talked to Miss Martin that things started to open up to me, and I started to realize, like, I think I knew who I wanted to be my whole life, but I didn't have the confidence to let that person become me.
So at what age did you find yourself in serious legal troubles?
So the first time I actually found myself in very severe legal trouble was age 13.
And what were you looking at there? Was it theft? Was it, violent? What were you looking at the age of 13? And obviously the second part of that question is, how did your family react to it?
So at 13, I was looking at breaking and entering and of a residential dwellings and robbery. And at that time, I mean, being young and being like kind of my major first offense, they was talking 6 years in the Department of Corrections, which was at the time would have been boys' school. And my dad, like my real father, like it was crazy. Like he actually came back around. So in my mind, I'm thinking, man, I'm doing something right. Like, I ain't seen my dad. He's here. So it portrayed an image of like, well, my dad's glad I'm acting like this. And I think it was because he had went down that wrong road. And then like my mom and them, they was all coming to me from a church standpoint, like, oh, God's gonna work things out. This was supposed to mean something, and it really irked them in a way that it didn't really bother me like it should have, and they were stressing about it more than I was. So they was kind of agitated, and then my real dad and his side of the family, they kind of seen it as a, oh, well, his mom pushed you away. This is your chance to get in there and show him that, he needs a father in his life. So,
and do you think that, like, you had to sort of, again, going back to the mask analogy, do you feel like that idea that your family was more upset about it than you were, did you have to do that to get through it? Did you have to act like it didn't bother you to get through it with the your peer group, to get through the juvenile, the boys' school, jail, prison? Like, did you have to sort of put a mask on that said it didn't bother you, or do you think that there was like some, maybe sociopathic switch that flipped where you just didn't really care?
No, I think it was a mask. I think it was more of the mask because, like, when I'd be in my room or I'd be by myself or I'd be writing, I could tell that the little kid inside that I had trapped was really hurting. But on the outskirts, I put this mask on that, oh, well, my age don't mean nothing. I'm older than that. Like, look at my legal trouble. And I was trying to put on this front that I was harder or that I came from gang violence. You know what I'm saying? I portrayed it as it wasn't my childhood, wasn't that hallmark. It was really I had this rough childhood, and this is why I'm where I'm at. And
yeah, I totally get that. Just sort of having to play to the crowd. I can understand where you were coming from there. So let's go ahead and fast forward now. You obviously you had some juvenile and some boys' school issues, but let's get to your adult life. Where in your adult life did you start to see legal trouble, or did this just sort of continue from 13 on to 18 or 19? And then your first prison sentence, when was that?
so my first prison sentence happened when I was 19. I got out of boys' school when I was 18, and like I said, even it wasn't until just about a year ago I truly found myself. But at 18, I thought I was back on track. I thought, like, this is what I want to do. I'm going to go do it. No one's going to stop me. I went off to college, and I was doing really good. I applied to join the military, but I went home for a weekend, and I got a minor consumption, so that kind of stalled that. And then I told myself I wasn't going to give up. A tragic event happened on October 31st of 2012. I had a friend take her own life, and that kind of just derailed it back to let's put on masks, let's show that this don't hurt you, this don't affect. And unfortunately, I ended up allowing that mask become my life again. I got a Class B burglary, residential entry, and theft, and I was ended up sentenced to 10 years on that at the age of 19.
So you get to the Indiana Department of Corrections. You have been wearing masks most of your whole life. You don't know if you are the athlete. You don't know if you're the small town kid. You don't know if your dreams are going to be achieved. Now you're having to wear a mask to get through southern Indiana prison gang culture. Can you explain for the listeners out there who they think of street gangs and they think Bloods, Crips, they think East Coast, West Coast. They don't know that there's like a bunch of like skinny Indiana white boys that are running around doing gang stuff. I'm sure that's a culture. It was a culture shock for me to see that. I got to imagine it was a culture shock, even though you grew up around a lot of those guys. Can you explain for the listener out there what gang culture in southern Indiana looks like?
Yeah, so growing up, most of us we're going off what we see on television. Like I said, I was a small town southern kid, so gangs, it was kind of a culture shock to me. But I got to hanging out with some, and I mean it's really, you've got these big time gangs, but then you've got, I guess you can call, branches. It's kind of like an oak tree. There's a massive core, and then there's people that branch off. And where I'm from, there's a mixture of branches off. Unfortunately, we're very white predominant community, so you've got a lot of racist gangs, and then you've got your gangs that we live by a big city that does see color, and they jump into that, and it's more of a group of guys and more of things like that to a naked eye from other towns, they won't see it as gangs. They just see it as, oh, it's just a group of guys hanging out. But they live by a quota, and they live by cores, and unfortunately they don't fit the judicial system's request, nor do they fit communities.
So your day-to-day activity, you get to prison, you're 19. Are you at this point thinking about reforming your life or getting involved with an education or rehabilitating your life, or is it just survival? What's your headspace your first couple years going?
So when I first got to prison, my mindset was, let's not waste this time. I'd had this persona that the community and town I grew up in, they wanted to yank everything and anything out from underneath me that I had opportunity. And I had this mindset, well, wherever I get, I'll jump into college classes. I achieved my GED when I was incarcerated into boys' school. So I was like, man, they give me opportunities like that. And, just don't get caught up with the wrong crowd. And none of that was brought forth. Unfortunately, I got to prison, and it's totally and absurdly different than my imagination created, my mask that I had put on. So I had to quickly change my mask because I went from I'm going to better myself to now I've just got to survive. Like, let's get out of this.
So you're sent to Department of Corrections. You go to IDOC's reception center. For a lot of people don't understand, you're sat in a cage 23 hours a day, let out for an hour or for food. Nobody's gotten classified yet, so you may have 2 years for a nonviolent crime, and you're in with a guy who's got 50 years for a violent crime. It's pretty insane, the treatment. And then you get sent to a prison. You get to prison, and you know it's going to be your home for the next few years. You know you've got to survive day to day. You're not even thinking about 5 years from now, 10 years from now, learning a skill that can better yourself, learning emotional management skills that can help you improve in a relationship. That's the furthest thing from your mind. You're thinking food, clothing, shelter, safety, survival. So what is your day-to-day activity when you get to your main camp? I know before they classify you and before you go to a program or a job, everyone gets assigned a job, you sit in what's called an A&O dorm, which is an idle dorm. So there's nothing going on, and it's sort of like they've taken people out of this reception center where you're locked down for 24 hours a day, and now we're going to throw you in a cage where everyone is starving. No one can get on the phone and get in touch with their people. It's pretty lawless for your first couple of months. Can you explain what that's like, and did you have any exposure to gangs at that point?
Yeah, so when I first got there, you go into an A&O dorm, and you're sit down in chairs, you lay your mat on the ground, stuff like that. And you look up and you see these prisoners talking to you, and it's like, hold on, I'm really being told what to do, the rules and stuff by prisoners. And unfortunately, in a place like that, prisoners put on masks. So you got one prisoner telling you, well, do this, do this, do that. Then you got this other one like, nah, this is how it's supposed to be. So now you're, especially at a young age, I was twisted and pulled man. And then you've got all these guys that have already been in the A&O dorm. They're looking at you, and you're, in my mind, I'm thinking, oh man, what are they doing? Are they trying to, do they got beef with me, or is there somebody that's here that don't like me, is putting bad blood on my name? And so all these things started running through my mind. And unfortunately, I went to a prison very close to home, so I seen a group of guys that I knew. I ran and went straight to them, and unfortunately, that's when I kind of was. I've been exposed to gangs, but that's when I became more imposed in them. I was now fully booted up, and I was living by their codes and their rules.
And so, I'm sure, everything that I've heard from people that were involved in gangs was you're sold this bill of dreams. Like, here's the code we live by. Here's our core of ethics. The COs, the corrections officers, are after you. The legal system hates you. Your parents aren't going to send you enough money. I got you. I'm your family. And they tell you one thing, but usually day to day it ends up being much different. At what point in this, I think you're going to be there for 5-6 years at least. At what point in being involved with these guys did you start to second guess yourself?
So it was about a year. It was about 12 months in. Like you said, I was sold a dream, man. Everything I'd had as a child, they was telling me I was going to get to have again. Like, I've got your back. You're not going to have no problems. Our goal is to get home. And 12 months into it, I've now turned a 10-5 into a 10-6.5. And I'm thinking, man, where did I go wrong? And I go back and look at all these disciplinary reports that I've gotten, and it's, oh well, my brother he caught this right up, but man, he was too close to going home. I had to go tell him it was me, and I started to notice right then, I've made a mistake, man. I've really jumped in and been kind of more of a fall guy and been more of a lean post than I have been I guess, inaugurated into a family.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So, let's say you're 6 months, 9 months away from going home. At that point, did a light come on at all about what you're going to do when you go home? I mean, what's your plan as you get ready to go home?
So, man, 6 9 months. I'm now. It's more not planning. It's more now I'm tiptoeing because it's like, man, everything that I've ever known for the past 5 years, this isn't what it's going to be. I'm not going to be told when I'm allowed to go to chow, when when I'm going to get state pay, or when I got class. Like, it's like reality started. It's like started just a tsunamiing in, and it was like, man, like, what am I going to do? Because I had no clue on what I was going to do. And that whole time that I'd been down, I wasn't looking to the right people for the right answer. So it was kind of like I was searching for a needle in a haystack.
So, a lot of the people don't know when they're going to go home. You know, there's a set date, but that can move if you get in trouble. It can move forward if you do well. You're about to go home. Did you have a plan for that day that you went home? Did you have a place to go? Did you have a job? Did you have any skill set? What's your plan?
So my plan, I did know, like, when I was coming home, and I was slowly beginning playing. Like I said, I goofed off the first years of this time that I had told myself I was going to learn, and I didn't have nothing to do, so I had to quickly revert and talk to people, seek out mental health, and ask them, like, hey, what am I supposed to do? I don't want to say I'm institutionalized, but this is all I've known. And they started putting things in place, but I was quickly upended when I was called. I actually got released a couple weeks earlier than what I was supposed to, because I ended up getting CTP. And for the viewers and listeners that don't know that, that's Community Transition Program. But don't let the word program trick you, because it's not like they bring you out and they put you in something to help you get a job and things like that. It's mostly the county's bringing you home early to maybe get some money, or now you're a state inmate but in the county. So all my little steps that I had planned to help me were quickly thrown under the bush, and kind of like, now get to it.
So you go to this CTP, or in Florida or other states it may be known as work release, and you get there, you get to this center. Did you have a job lined up?
No, I had no job, and like my CTP, I was actually sent to just daily reporting. I just had to report to an officer we call it the community corrections building. I had to meet there daily with an officer. I had to meet him once every day, Monday through Friday. So no, I had no job.
How did that affect your employment? Did having to report every day to this community transition officer, did that affect the hours that you could work?
Well, like I said, I had no job lined up, so I quickly tried to jump into employment, because they say the faster you get a job, the better chances you've got. And my first two interviews, actually, I had to either postpone them or cancel them. Then my first time I actually got the job, I had to miss the first day of training, because the way I'd met, I would have to just call him, like, hey, like, what's up, like, what time? And some days, if the officer was in a mood, he'd be like, right now. And there was no telling these people no. But at the same time, calling this officer, you had to call a hotline, and they would tell you if you had to go and take a drug test. And so it affected me real deep, to the point to where I actually became, they call it it's kind of like postpartum pregnancy depression, but it was like post-release. I became very depressed, to the point that I felt like prison and stuff like that was the only thing good for me. I actually had to reach out to a mental health services, and they got me in line, and then something great came from it. And I had a buddy reach out to me that had started his own business while I was incarcerated, and he asked if I could lend him a hand, and I did, and then that's what helped me. And luckily he was on daily reporting, so he was able to manage with me. So
you were able to find support in people that had been incarcerated, not necessarily your family or your friends or the institutions or the legal system, but actually people who had experienced it and lived it were the ones that were able to give you a helping hand there. And what you were referring to, I think a lot of, if nobody knows this, it's actually in the mental health manual, the DSM-5. Post-incarceration syndrome is much like PTSD. It's got a lot of the same symptoms. A lot of things can trigger it, seeing flashing lights, smelling exhaust, hearing a door lock, feeling like you can't leave somewhere. All of these things affect you with post-incarceration syndrome. So you're having to navigate this mental health stuff and your family stuff, and now you've started to find some footing. How long did you last in your first time home?
So my first time home, I'd lasted, it was close to 3 months. I think it was either a little under or a little over. And it was mostly, like I said, my depression. The only people I truly had out to help me was my boss and then mental health. My family, they didn't understand why I wasn't able to compromise with the outside world so well. And again, like I said, it was the release. I was so depressed. Life had hit me so fast. And then my PO at the time, she was all like, "Oh, I'm going to help you." And these officers that are doing daily reporting, he's like, "We've got you, we've got you." And I reached out to them and actually told them. And their answer was, "Okay, well, let's put you back in the county and let's see if we can find a housing for you," or something like this. And then that just, quickly reverted my mind back to, you're right, prison's all I'm ever going to get. This is all I ever know. And bam, there I was, back doing a PO bit.
So you're, for
Probation
those of you who
violation.
don't know, is that if you're released in Indiana, not everybody has this. In Florida, you do 85% of your time. In Indiana, you do 65 to 75% of your time. And if you get out early, you still have that 25% of time to do. You're just going to do it on parole. So you're in prison. You're under community supervision. You're just free and you're allowed to work. And God forbid you have a mental health breakdown or anything goes wrong, you got to go back and do that 25%. So here you are, back to do your last couple years of this prison bid. So you're sitting in prison. You've given up any progress you've made. You've taken one step forward, two steps back. Weren't able to get any kind of help or support or health. You're definitely not able to make a mistake. So now you're sitting back. At this point, is this where you said, I've got to completely do something different? Or did you get put into a program, like a drug rehabilitation program? Like, what was different this time on this last prison bid?
Well, what was different was, it was like I'm staring at the same walls. I'm looking at the same COs, these same people, because I was sent back to the same prison. And I'm thinking, man, where did I go wrong? Like, I told myself I'd never come back. And it's like my inner voice told me, well, how about you just do everything that you said you would do and just do the opposite? And I'm thinking, man, like, how's people going to look at me, especially in prison? Like, I'm affiliated. How are they going to look when I tell them, hey, I'm not doing this bit. I'm going to get into a program. And it took almost 5 weeks. And like I said, I had talked to you. We talked out there and watched ESPN. And then I talked to mental health, and mental health was like, what do you got to lose? And that's when it hit me. Like, I'm a big sports fan. I'm into sports, but I just didn't want to go that route. But it was like win or lose. It's like, hey, my record's not looking too good, but they're still putting me on the mound to pitch. How about we quit going with the fastball and change it up a bit? And I tell myself, what do I got to lose? So that's when it hit me, like, let's give it a try. Let's go.
Duck, I gotta tell you, as you're telling us about going into this program, in the background is ESPN's Bad Beats, and it just made me think of you because, that's got to be the greatest segment on television. You're a big sports guy. How did sports affect you while you were in prison? Were you able to bet on some games and have some fun, make some money, make some friends? Like, what is, for the common listener out there that doesn't know or just thinks sports ball is stupid, like, what is the importance of sports in the prison system?
Well, sports to me in the prison system, like I said, my brother was so big into it, and I loved sports. It's just I didn't have the athleticism he did. So sports became a bond for me. It allowed me to break barriers that I didn't know. For a lot of people, you they get that nervousness, especially in a setting like prison. You're thinking, man, I don't even know how to open up to this guy. And you walk out on a Saturday morning and you see five to six people drinking coffee, watching sports. You can just jump in and kind of ear listen and maybe put a thing in. They're like, oh, well, hey, come over here. Like, you know a little bit about sports, and you create friends, and hey, you get a bet a few soups here and there, and nothing big. It ain't nothing worth throwing on Facebook and saying you hit the jackpot, but it breaks that barrier and it allows you to build confidence, and it allows you to not only give intel but get intel, which was something I struggled with. I struggled with talking and listening.
So, yeah, I mean, it's just a huge social lubricant. You want to talk about breaking down racial and religious and social barriers. That's the great unifier, is that, hey, I haven't talked to anyone here. There's 300 guys. I've never felt so alone around 300 people as I ever have before. And now I've got something where we can bond on and share on. I think it goes unnoticed, the importance of sports or music or those type of social bonds really go a long way. So you're in this program, you get into, substance abuse classes, 12-step style classes. As you start to share and start to open up, I've got to think, like, for somebody who sounds like a fairly smart guy and knows that they wanted more out of life, here you are back on your second trip. Did you feel like, as you were sharing your story or as you were listening to other people share their story, did you feel like it was authentic, or did you have to fake it till you make it?
I genuinely meant what I was saying, but again, this is my second time around. This is my second trip through this program, because I had actually did the drug rehabilitation the first time, and I didn't believe I was an addict. So this second time, I like I said, I had to do things different. I had to admit I was an addict. But in that same essence, that everything I'm saying, I'm looking around, and my inside self's telling me, you better put a mask on, because how many of these guys are really looking at me saying, is this authentic, or is this another, hey, he's been here, he knows what to do to get home, he's ready to get back out and do what he does? Because unfortunately, this program that we're talking about, you're getting 10 years and a judge is telling you do this program, you're going to go home. So a lot of guys are thinking, 9 months compared to 10 years, hey, I'll take the 9 months, I'll get back out there, I'll get to getting this money. And so it was really scary for me, because being affiliated, I wanted to go in these offices and talk to these counselors and be like, hey, listen, man, half these people want me to be this person because that's who they knew and remember me to be last time. And then these other guys, they don't know who I am. They just know that, hey, he's been here before, he's done it. And then you've got me in the middle knowing this is what I want, this is who I am, like I want to stay on it.
Yeah,
but
that's such an important element that I don't think that's anyone listening right now, whether you've been in trouble or not, that's the human experience. That weird, socially awkward, unsure, shame-filled, throwing out words of like should and need to and have to, all of that space is the gap between who we are and who we want to be. Every human experiences that. Now imagine you have this gap of who you are and who you want to be, and there's pressure to be one thing and you're trying to be this other thing. So, I think that's really important. How did you find yourself bridging that gap when you have no possessions, no money, no social clout, no status, in this short period of time? How did you bridge that gap? How did you reconcile that?
I think the way I bridged it was, so I talked to a lot of different individuals, and I talked to some guys that, around people, they was one person, and then around me, they might be different. And talking to them, I was actually speaking to them, but putting myself in their shoes, because that's what I needed. I'm very good at giving advice. I struggle with taking advice. So I had to bridge that gap by, like, when I would talk to an individual, I'd have to look at that individual as they was me. I was like, not only telling them advice, but I was telling myself advice, because it got to the point where I had to realize that we live in a world of millions and millions of people, but every person is different.
Some would say billions.
Yeah, billions. I mean, so I had to see myself as I'm I'm one person in a big pond, but this pond isn't what's got to hold me. You know what I'm saying? And I had to see myself as I'm not here to make change, but I'm here to be change.
So you make it through this program. What's different about this journey home than your previous journey home? What's the big key difference?
I think the big key difference this time is I came home with, I guess you could call it I had a bunch of orange cones up when I came home this time. And it wasn't orange cones of be cautious, watch out for this guy. It was, hey, I'm in construction mode. I'm rebuilding from the bottom up. It's like I had knocked down my old house and I told myself, yeah, so I had to actually rebuild. And I told myself that I wasn't going to let nothing stop me from rebuilding or thing like that. And the process is still continuing.
So what's your journey home been like? Like, how was finding employment and housing? How difficult was that? Were you able to find a place to live that was healthy, a place to work that was healthy, and were there systems in place to do it?
So for the systems, it was very unorthodox. There was a lot more loopholes than what people had told me. They said, oh, contact this number. And it's like I was contacting numbers for weeks, and I wasn't getting nowhere. But for housing, I was reluctant enough to know that my dad actually had been incarcerated a little bit during my second stint. He got into a drug rehabilitation center, got very clean. Him and my sister ended up rebonding. She bought a house. I was able to move in with them and kind of keep that system in the place that I had when incarcerated. Because again, like I said, I deal with postpartum release, and when I got out, I kind of had to stick to that prison routine. I had to get up, I had to drink my coffee, watch my sports center. But slowly, I dabbled out with my sister to church events or to family events that she would attend. And I started to realize that as I looked around, all the support I thought I had before I'd went was no longer there. All my support was people that continuously reminded me, hey, I'm here to help you. I'm here to help you. And my friend group dwindled. My family bond grew. And luckily enough, through all that process, I was able to find work because of church. I was able to find things through other things, but it wasn't really the system that I was told to follow, because again, it was like I was calling number after number.
Do you have a daily routine that, like, let's say, Duck, I took away your job, I took away your friends, I took away your family, you're alone. Do you have a daily routine that you can fall back on that will get you through COVID or a breakdown or losing all of those things? Is there something that you're doing? For me, I will say that gratitude journal, positive self-talk, meditation, yoga, exercise, those are things that I have to do every day. I can't miss more than 2 or 3 days in a row. And so I just went through the loss of my daughter. My daughter passed away 2 months ago, and that would have been a perfect catalyst to send me back into addiction, depression, shame. I could have spiraled down and ended up in a horrible place, but because I have this system that I live by, even if the things I love most are snatched away, I still have these things I do. Do you have a system like that you live by that you can pass on to anyone that's maybe going through?
In my routine for it, it's pretty much the same. I've got one. It's called the Duck Drama Clear Free Plan, and it's wake up, drink coffee, watch Sports Center, and spend time with my niece.
I love it. I really appreciate you joining us. What's in the future for Duck? You got a crystal ball, a duck-shaped crystal ball. What's in there?
So my crystal ball, I guess you could say my DuckTales, as I like to call it, is I plan on I'm in the process of writing a book. I've actually wrote it. It's soon to be published, I hope. But my plans is to talk about the journey I've went through, because my journey is similar to Minnie's, but it's still got its own road course, I guess you could say, as for the NASCAR fans. I guess it's got its left turns and right turns, but in the end, it's 100 laps, winner take all.
Duck, we really appreciate it, and obviously we're sending you good vibes and love and protection. I just want to finish on this thought. If you can pass something along to somebody out there right now that's just starting this journey into being uncarcerated, what would you tell them?
I would tell them that no matter what you do on your daily basis, man, a story's being written. The question is, do you want to be the author of that story, or do you just want to be a character in your book of life?
Thanks, Duck. We really appreciate it, man.
Yep, thank you.